Hi, this is Rick Graziani, and in this video, I want to talk a little bit about how to configure a switch or a router using iOS. And they're basically the same commands, or most of the commands are identical for either a switch or a router. Okay, so configuring a device for the first time. Remember, these devices initially out of the box don't have any kind of network configuration to them, so you have to be at the device and connect into the device to configure it. And I'm going to demonstrate that right over here using a PC and a switch. So on the PC, we need to connect to the switch using a console connection. So let's do that. I'm going to go over here, choose a console cable, also known as a rollover cable, click on the PC, and click on RS-232. That's its serial port. So go over here, connect to the switch, and connect to the switch's console port. Now I'm physically connected to the switch. So let me explain what we've just done here. At this point, the PC is going to act as nothing more than what we call a dumb terminal. Back in the day, before the days of PCs and that sort of thing, personal computers, the way we connected to mainframe and mini computers was using dumb terminals. The computer itself, which is actually the switch in this case, has the hardware, the operating system. When I mean hardware, CPU, RAM, ROM, other things. And like I said, the operating system. All the PC is, in this case a dumb terminal, is a monitor and a keyboard connecting to where the computer actually is, the switch. So what we do is we can go to the PC. I'm going to move this over so we can see it well enough. Going to go over here to where it says desktop, click on terminal, and what we're running is this is a terminal emulator. So on a Windows PC, for example, we'd have to turn our $500,000, $2,000 computer into a dumb terminal. And we use a terminal emulator such as Hyperterm, TerraTerm, PuTTY, whatever. And this is the protocol that the device, in this case the switch, requires our host, our PC, our dumb terminal to be configured with. So we're not going to go through these, but this is what it must be configured to. Click OK, and voila! We are now connected to the device. And by the way, this is something you would do anytime you want to physically connect to the device. But you have to physically be there in, say, the wiring closet with the device or wherever the device is. And we see here, it's like, oh, okay, well, press return to get started. I don't see a prompt. Well, let's hit return. There's our prompt. Okay, but Packet Tracer makes it a little easier for us. We don't have to go through this to configure a device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I'm actually going to get rid of these devices here, the switch and the PC. And we're going to go over here and configure switch 0 using the console port. And how do we do that? Well, I could go from one of these PCs here and do a console connection like I just showed you, but all we have to do in Packet Tracer, click on the device, and there we go. It's that simple. And click on CLI for command line interface. Alright, so here we are. See some output that happened when it booted up. Let's get our prompt. Hit enter. Oh, there it is. Great. All right, so first of all, the mode that I am in is known as the user mode. I see the prompt switch greater than symbol. That means I'm in the user mode. User mode isn't meant for what we think of the users that use our network. User mode is the mode for anybody in our IT department that has access to the device, but lets you look, monitor, shows certain things, but doesn't let you change anything in this mode. For that, we'll need to go to privilege mode that I'll show you in a moment. If I want to see what commands are available to me at this mode, the help. Help is just the question mark. And it'll tell me what commands are available at this mode. Okay, so for example, one command there is the show command. So let me try that command there. Show. Press enter. What? Incomplete command. That's fine. It's just telling me, Ricky, you haven't typed any parameters. And for this command, I need some parameters. Well, let's use our helpful question mark to tell us what it's looking for. I'll type show space question mark. Oh, there we go. So these are the different things I can type after that. All right, there's more there. I'm just going to hit the space bar, give me the rest of the screen in this case. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But what I want to do is do a show, and I want to do show MAC address table right here. Now you'll notice that after I did the show question mark, when I got done with that, it left me where I was, show space and then waiting for input. So I'm going to type MAC address table. Got some output. That's the switch's MAC address table. Let's not worry about what that is right now. We just want to focus on the iOS commands for now. In a later video, or at least those of you that are students of mine, later class, we'll be talking more about that. Okay, so what other commands? Well, let me try command show running -config. Let me see if that's a valid command. It says invalid input. And look, it tells me where it didn't recognize it. See where that caret is? Right there. It's saying at the R, at the beginning of that parameter, it recognized the show, but not the running config. So always look at these and say, what did I do wrong here? Because it's trying to help you determine where you went wrong. All right. Actually, show running config is a legitimate command, but not in user mode. That is a command where we need privileged access. We need to be in privilege mode. So to go into privilege mode, I type the command enable. And notice what happened. My prompt changed to a £, switch £. Now I'm in a mode where it allows me to configure things and do a little bit more as far as showing things on the device, on the switch in this case. Now, by the way, normally you'd want this password protected, meaning somebody go from user mode to privilege mode, and we're going to do that in just a moment. All right, so one of the things that I want to do here is to take a look at a command using how to set the clock. So devices should have a time and date set on them. Matter of fact, let me do that. Show clock is a command, and it shows me in this case the default March 1st 1993, and looks like somewhere around early early in the morning. Okay, but we want to set the date and time to be the current date and time. Now in the real world and real networks, what you'd want to do on your devices, your routers, switches, firewalls, servers, even your client computers, is probably use something called NTP, Network Time Protocol. You'd want your devices all to be in sync, have the same date and time, and get it from a time server, an NTP server. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to set the clock manually. And this is a great command because it shows us how parameters are used in iOS. All right, so the command that we're going to do is clock. All right, so let's try this. Clock, enter. It says incomplete command. It means it's expecting more parameters. Okay, clock space question mark. And it only gives me one option, the set parameter. Okay, so I'll do clock set. Now I could hit enter. Let me hit enter. Yep, you got it. It's still incomplete. Okay, I could type this out again, but I can also use my handy up arrow. The up and down arrow is used to go through the history buffer. So I'll hit the up arrow, space, and I'm going to do a question mark. See what it's asking me for. Oh, it wants hours, minutes, and seconds. 24-hour clock here. All right, so I'm just going to keep it simple. I'll do 1,300 hours. You know what? And I'm guessing it wants more than that. So instead of hitting enter, I'm going to hit the question mark. And I was right. It's looking for a day of the month. So what it's telling me here is it wants a number between 1 and 31, followed by a month. And it wants it in the written word. So let me show you. We'll say 27 for the day. And then I'll just type Jan for January. And let me hit enter because I'm guessing it's going to want something else. And I think you're guessing that too. Yeah, the year. So something between 1993 and 2035. So we'll just do 2015. And I'm going to space question mark and see if there's anything else. CR. That means carriage return. Whenever we see CR as one of our options, in this case our only option, it means that this is we have given enough of the command and enough parameters to satisfy iOS, and I can hit return at this point. Great. Okay, let me do show clock now, and I should see my current date and time, and there we go. All right, so most of the times when we are configuring, the clock set command is an exception, but usually to configure things on a switch or a router, we need to at least be in what is known as global configuration mode. So let me go into that mode and then we'll begin to understand a little bit more about it. So to go into global configuration mode, I type configure space terminal. Hit enter. Did you notice something? Notice our prompt changed? This is telling us we are in global configuration mode. At this mode here, we can configure anything that is global on the switch. It affects the switch or the router globally, like a host name, which we're going to do in just a moment. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Now, if I wanted to get out of global configuration mode back to the privilege prompt, the root privilege prompt, I would just type exit. Where's my prompt? Well, I have a message there from iOS. Let me just hit enter and get my prompt back. There we go. Now, I want to go back into global configuration mode because that's where we want to do some stuff. Now, something else I can do, CONF, I don't have to type out the entire command as long as what I've typed out is unique. So as long as there's no other command that begins with CONF, I'm good, and I'm pretty sure this works. I've done this a few times. Space, and then for terminal, I'm just going to do T for terminal because there's no other parameters that begin with T. And watch what happens. There we are. The same as configure terminal, conf T. All right, looks good. Okay, so what I want to configure at this mode here, global configuration mode, is I want to modify the switch prompt, the prompt, the host name. So I'm going to give the command host name space and just S1. And notice when we do this, our prompt changed, our host name changed to S1. Now, in real networks, you'd usually have some kind of policy for documenting and managing your devices. Where I've worked, we've typically, and this is kind of common in many environments, the host name is going to be things like a series of, we'd have it as the building number and the wiring closet, and usually maybe a device, the model of the device, and then the specific device itself. So whenever we were logged into a device, we knew exactly where that device was and which device it was. Because there's nothing worse than configuring one device and you're on the wrong device and you should have been configuring something else. But for our lab, this is just fine. Okay, so there we go. We've configured the host name. Notice there's our prompt. Okay, so one of the things I want to do is you notice that when we console connected directly into the switch for the first time, we were right at that user prompt. That's probably not a good idea for security reasons. We don't want anybody that has physical access to our device to just be able to plug in and then have user mode access. So what we're going to do is we're going to configure a password on the console port. So when anybody initially plugs into it, or someone plugs into that console port, it's going to ask them for a password. Okay, so to do that we have to be at the global configuration mode like we're at right now. Now I'm going to type the command line console 0. What I'm doing here is I'm saying I want to configure console 0. 0 is which console port it is. Now on routers and switches there's only one console port, so it will always be 0. Hit enter and notice that our prompt changed. We are now in config line mode. So specifically I'm in the mode to configure the line console 0. What I'm going to do here is require a password, and the password is going to be password, and the password is going to be Cisco. That's not a good password. Don't use passwords like this. But just for simplicity's sake for this lab, that'll be fine for us. Okay, and then we want to make sure there's a login prompt, so I type login, and there we go. Alright, to get out of this mode, configuration line mode, I'm going to type exit, and that will pop us out one back to global configuration mode. I'm going to pop out once again exit, so exit always takes us back one, and I'm back at the privilege prompt. Now if I want to exit all the way out of this device past user mode from this prompt, I'm going to type exit. Boom, we're out. Now if I was to have my laptop with me, plug from the serial port, or most devices don't have serial ports anymore, so you can go from the a USB port into the console port, plug into the console port, hit enter. Of course I'm on my terminal emulator on my laptop. It's going to ask me for that password, Cisco. So let's give it. Boom. We're in. We're in its user mode. How do we get to privilege mode? Enable. And I could just type ENA, and that's fine. So let me type it all out, but ENA would have been fine. There we are. Now we're at the privilege prompt. Okay. And by the way, we need a password on that. So we're going to do that here in a moment. Make sure that when somebody goes from user mode to privilege, it asks them for a password. All right, let's see what we've done so far. So everything that we've configured, by the way, is in a file called the running config on the switch. It's the same for routers as well, the running config. And the running config is in RAM memory. Let's take a look at it. Show running-config. Hit enter. Okay. Hey, there's our host name. Now you'll see some other things in there that's part of the default configuration. It lists all of our interfaces. Okay. And I can hit the space bar. Space bar will give me the next screen load of information. Okay. If I hit the enter key, that will give me the next line. Okay. If I hit any key, that just takes me back to the prompt, like a J key when I mean the any key. Any key but the space or the return. I want to go back because I want to show you something else in here. I'm going to hit the space bar. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to hit the up arrow. The up arrow gives me my history, right? Show running config. Hit enter. I'm going to hit space bar. Space bar because I want to take a look at the whole thing. There's my password Cisco. Okay, so there's for the console port. Excellent. All right. One of the things is that this running config is in RAM memory. What happens to RAM memory when the power goes off? Yeah, you're right. We lose everything in RAM memory. So we want to make sure that we save this configuration permanently. Whenever you're making changes and things are working the way you want to make sure that, should you lose power, recycle, save it. So Next time this router boots up, we want to make sure it has this configuration. Okay, to do that, we use this command here. Copy the running config, which is in RAM memory, copy space running config space to startup config. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, let me back up. Let's show the startup config. Let's see what's in there. Show startup config. Nothing. The startup config is a file in non-volatile RAM, NVRAM. Well, when we initially configure the device, it doesn't have a saved configuration. So we're gonna do it here. So we're gonna copy the running config. Let me start that over. Running config space startup config. So we're gonna copy our running config to the startup config. It says destination startup config. Are you sure? Yes. Hit enter. Boom. Saved. Now if I do show startup config, you saw me use my up arrow there, we'll see the same configuration that was in the running config. Alright, looks good. Alright, so we are still in the privilege prompt, and what I want to do next is configure a password that requires people to go, configure a password. So it's required when people are in user mode and they go to privilege mode that they have to do a password. So let's do that. So remember, how do we get to global configuration? Yeah, configure terminal. So I'm going to do CONF. Now, is that good enough? Yeah. Could I just do, so the command I'm going to do is configure terminal. But if I wanted to shorten that, could I just do C for configure, T for terminal? No, it says ambiguous. It's saying that at least one of those is not long enough. And in this case, we know it's the C. Remember the C was also for clock? So it says, hey, are you talking about configure or clock or some other command that starts with C? Okay, I'll be a little bit more specific. CONF space T, configure terminal. Boom, now we're in global configuration mode. Alright, so what I want to do next is configure a password for going from user mode to privilege mode. And the command we do that is enable space secret space and then the password class. Again, that is not a good password. Don't use these passwords that I'm using. Okay, very susceptible to dictionary attacks and just plain guessing. Okay, press enter. Boom. Alright, let's take a look, see what that did for us. I'm going to type exit, get us out of global configuration. We're still at the privilege mode. Now, I'm not going to exit all the way out. Instead, I'm just going to go from privilege mode to user mode. So I'm going to type disable. I'm at the user prompt. Now if I want to go into privilege mode, I type enable, and now it's asking me for that password. That password class is what we need to use. There we go. Now I'm in privilege mode. Okay, we're doing pretty good. Hey, let's take a look at something else. Let's do the show running config again. Oh, you know what? I don't want to type out the whole thing, but you know what? I could shorten it to just show run or show running. Let me show you another neat thing we can do. Let me hit the tab key. If I've typed enough of a command so iOS recognizes it, if I want iOS to finish it for me, I can just use the tab key. Isn't that cool? Okay. There's our enable secret. So notice that it's already encrypted as far as showing us in the running config. Now that's not a highly encrypted file. Matter of fact, there's tools out there that you could copy and paste that into and it would tell you what the password is. It's just enough so somebody looking over your shoulder doesn't go, oh, the password's class. Okay, take a look here. There we go. There's our line console 0. Password Cisco. You know, somebody looking over our shoulder would know that password was Cisco when we're plugging into the console. Is there a way that we can have that encrypted in the running config along with any other passwords we might add? Sure, let's do that. So I'm going to go into global configuration mode, conf, I'm going to hit the tab key here. I'm going to hit the tab key here. There we go. And the password I'm going to, the command I'm going to use to encrypt those passwords is service password. I'm going to let iOS finish this out. Password encryption. Excellent. Let's now go back and look at the running config. To do that, I got to be at the root prompt. There are some shortcuts, but we're not going to worry about that here. Okay, show running config. I hit the tab key there just so you know what we're showing. Okay, our enable secret password was already encrypted for us. And look at this. Line console 0, there's our password and it's encrypted. So at least somebody looking over our shoulder doesn't know what the password is. Okay, so everything we've done now is, these are the basic commands. We're going to do a couple other more things here in a moment. So we've configured the basics, but what if I want to configure this switch or access the switch remotely from my office or from home to be able to look at something on the switch, maybe even make some configuration changes. For that, then it needs to be part of the network. So a switch, a layer 2 switch, does not need to have an IP address to do its job. A layer 2 switch, you buy a layer 2 switch off the shelf, little $20 switch, it has no need to have an IP address. The only reason why we put an IP address on this switch is so we can access it remotely using Telnet or SSH. Now, what I'm going to show you is how we configure it using Telnet. Later, in a later lesson, we talk about SSH. SSH is much more secure than Telnet. Telnet passes the everything in the session, including the passwords, in clear text. So if somebody had a sniffer, they could see it. But for the basics that we're going over right now, Telnet will be just fine. Okay, so I need to configure a password, or I'm sorry, not a password, an IP address on this switch for no other reason than so that we can manage it remotely. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm in privilege prompt. I'm going to go into global configuration and I'm going to enter the command interface VLAN 1. And notice our prompt changes to config IF for interface. Now, this is a virtual interface. It means that, and I don't want to go into too many details here because we haven't talked about VLANs. But a VLAN is a virtual local area network. So basically where we're at right now is as long as any other device on the same VLAN as us, VLAN 1, which is all devices by default on this switch, and as long as they're part of the same subnet as us, same network, they can telnet to us. So I'm going to give an IP address. So if you didn't understand that part of it, don't worry about it. For right now, we're going to go into interface VLAN 1, and we're going to give it an IP address 192.168.1.5, and a subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Now this happens to be the same subnet as other devices on our network. Notice that this PC here, 192.168.1.10, and the same subnet mask. This is a /24 subnet mask. So there are best practices on how to do this. You'd normally have your devices in what's called a management VLAN, but for where we are right now, this is just fine. So this is going to allow our PCs, like this PC, allow us to, from this PC here, to remotely log into the switch without being physically in that wiring closet with it. Okay, there's one more thing I need to do here. I need to do a no shutdown. I need to turn on the interface. And notice that we got an iOS message. Let me hit an enter here. That's just telling us that now it's up. The no shutdown. So by default, all interfaces are in shutdown mode, meaning they're off. And to reverse that, we use the no option. By the way, the no option before any command reverses anything you might have done. Like if I wanted to get rid of this IP address on this interface, I would say no space IP address. If I wanted to remove the host name that we did in global configuration mode, I'd say no hostname S1. Okay, I'm going to do an exit here because we're not done yet. Okay, we've put an IP address on there, but iOS wants to make sure that not just anybody can remotely log into this device, because all of a sudden somebody could remotely log in and change the passwords on me and maybe lock me out of my own switch. So what I have to do is configure what we call the virtual terminal lines. Okay, so let's do that. I'm in global configuration mode, and what I'm going to do is type the command line VTY, which stands for virtual terminal, 0 space 4. And I'm going to explain this in just a moment. Notice our prompt changes to config line. So what this means is line VTY 0 space 4. VTY, this is anybody that is virtually connecting to us using Telnet, SSH, or whatever. 0 is the first port, and by default, all Cisco iOS devices will have at least 5 virtual terminal lines, meaning 5 people could Telnet or SSH into the device at the same time. So 0 would be the first one, and then 4 would be the last one. Many devices have many more than this. But really, not having that many people telnetting into your device all at the same time. So usually 5 is fine. Don't do anything strange. I give different virtual terminal passwords to, don't do 0, 1, and then do 2, so 4 for something else. Just go from the first one to the last. Make your life easy. Okay, let's do a password. And we're going to do the same password here as we did for our console port, Cisco. And then we'll type login. All right, so that's looking pretty good there. All right. So I've configured the password for somebody telnetting in. I'm going to take a look at how this works in just a moment. So let me type exit. And you know what? Let me type exit again, and I'm going to do copy run start. Same thing as copy running config, startup config. I just shortened the commands. So I'm pretty sure, pretty sure this is going to work. We'll see here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and give this a try. So what I'm going to do is close this, and let's bring up the PC here. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the desktop, go to the command prompt. First of all, let's see first, can I reach the switch? Let's ping it, 192.168.1.5. There we go. Were you worried? That first one timed out? What's up with that? We'll talk about that another time, but that's because the first ping timed out due to an ARP request and an ARP reply that was needed. So that's actually very common on Ethernet LANs, that your first ping might actually time out. So don't worry about that. All right, good. So now let's go ahead and telnet in the switch. We're here in our office. The switch is somewhere else on our network in a wiring closet. Let's telnet to that IP address. Telnet 192.168.1.5. Enter. There's our password. Now the password it's asking us for is that VTY password, Cisco. And notice that it leaves us at the user prompt. This is just like we're sitting there. Pretty cool. Okay, let's type enable. Class was our privilege prompt, and there we are. just like we were on the device. We could do configure terminal and all kinds of things. Okay, I could go in. I'm going to show you something. Since I'm in this global configuration mode, I'm going to go into line VTY 0 space 4. I'm not going to do anything in there, but I went from privilege prompt to global configuration to the line mode for virtual terminal 0 through 4. If I typed exit here, that would take me to global configuration mode. If I typed exit at global configuration mode, it would take me to the privilege prompt. But I want to show you a command that will take us all the way from wherever we are back to just the privilege prompt, and that's end. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, if I want to exit this session, type quit. Oh, what in the world just happened? Actually, I gave the wrong command. I'm going to show you how to alleviate that from happening. Okay, we got to wait here. So what it's doing says, Rick, I didn't recognize that command. You typed quit. So let me see. Maybe I need to resolve that. Maybe you're trying to connect to something. And let me try to resolve this. So I'm going to go talk to a domain server. So I'm trying to see, is there a domain server out there that can help me? And nobody's responding. It takes a little bit because it keeps on saying, hey, are you out there? Are you out there? And finally, it's going to come back and we'll get our prompt back. So I'm going to show you how to fix that so we don't have to wait like that. Matter of fact, we won't even get that error message. Okay, come on. I wanted to show this, but I didn't want it to take this long. Okay, there we go. So the command actually would just be exit. Okay, and that exits me out of the telnet session. Notice I just have my PC prompt back. Okay, let's fix that. All right, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to our switch. I'm going to show you a couple of nice commands that I always like to have, that I configure on all my switches and routers. Okay, I'm in privilege prompt. I'm going to go into global configuration mode. Conf T, configure terminal. Now to get rid of that problem that we just had, I'm going to type no space IP domain dash lookup. IP domain lookup is on by default. You can look that stuff up at a domain server if I don't understand what you're trying to tell me, because I think you're trying to tell me to connect to something. This is going to say no, don't, just error out. So that's one of my, and I'll show you, we'll go back to that PC and I'll show you the result of that. Another command I really liked, or a couple of commands. Let me go into line console 0. This is a command I really like. Logging, and I'm going to let iOS finish it for me, synchronous. I like this command. This is a great command. Sometimes you're in the middle of typing something and iOS throws some output in your way. And your command is somewhere in the middle of what you were typing, is somewhere in the middle of all that output. What this command does is it says, iOS, show the output, and then I'm going to leave Rick back to where he was with a fresh prompt, and back where he was with his command, where he left off. Makes it really nice. Now this next command I'm going to show you is a command that I would not use in a production environment, but in a lab environment it's fine. When you're on a router or switch, it's going to time out after a few minutes, which makes sense. You don't want to be left to log in and somebody comes over and all of a sudden they have access to whatever you were logged into. So that command is exec-timeout 0 space 0, meaning don't time out. Again, do not use that command in a production network. You want to make sure things time out if you haven't been on them, if you've been idle for a while. All right, so I'm going to type exit here, and we'll type exit again. I could have just typed end. Now, I want to show you. This logging synchronous just worked for us. Remember, normally when we exit global configuration mode, we get this prompt, but we don't get a fresh prompt. It did in this case, and that's as a result of logging synchronous. And it's even more useful when you're doing other commands and doing debugs and things like that. All right, let me copy the running config. I'm going to use our friendly tab key just to make sure you remember these commands to the startup. All right, last but not least, let's go back to that PC. Go back to our PC. I'm going to, and this, by the way, this also works from when you just connected directly to the switch or router, this no IP domain lookup. But I just want to show you what I've taken care of. Remember we typed quit here? Let's see. So let's go ahead and let's telnet again. So I use D up arrow, telnet 192.168.1.5. Okay, so our password was Cisco. There we go. I'll go into enable mode. Oops, can I type class? I hope so. Now remember when we typed quit up here? Whoops, maybe I didn't type it right. There we go. Remember when I typed quit up here? Tried to translate it? Let me do it again now. Quit. Notice now it just comes back unknown command. Okay, the reason why, that's because of the no IP domain lookup. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. At this point, this ends this video. This is really everything you need to do the basic configuration on a switch or a router. So practice these commands, maybe make yourself a nice little quick reference sheet. You know, one of the things that you can do is, if you go to the, whoops, I don't want to go to the computer. If you go to the switch that you're working on, okay, we do show running config. It shows you all those commands. So you could actually just copy and paste much of this into a document and put them, or what you can do is copy these. Maybe that's even better, right? Copy the commands into a Word document, do some editing, clean it up, but all the commands that we were working on, copy them into a Word document. Make yourself some notes so you know exactly what commands do what. Nice little quick reference guide. You can do here, select it, click copy, go over to your, open up a Word document, paste. All right, so I think we're all done with this. Have fun, good luck, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have fun. The more you practice, the better you get at it. Good luck.